Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Nerd Soup. My name is Reuben, joined here today with Aaron, and we are back to review Invincible, Season 3, Episode 7. What have I done? And before we get into today's episode, I want to let you guys know that you can listen to this wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're interested in listening to more of our podcasts, you can sign up for our Patreon page where we do reviews, solo pods. We just did our Oscars 2025 recap. That was fun. And follow us on social medias at Beau Soup, at Nerd Soup, at Nerd Soup Monkey. I don't know why I put myself first, even though Beau Soup is not my tag on any of the socials I use lately. Well, Letterboxd, go follow me there. And yeah, Invincible. This is what we've been waiting for. The Invincible War. I remember hearing a lot from the readers of the comics that this would be unadaptable, that it was just too big, too epic for them to bring it to the small screen. And I think partly they may have been correct because I have seen a bit of negative reception. I think overall people enjoyed it, and I enjoyed it too, but it did feel like an event that was seismic and it came and went. It reminds me of Age of Ultron, and it really was just a week. And I know that could be the difficult with the difficulty with these adaptations. You know, Saga is an epic that I loved, but it was written with the intention of never being adapted. It was just too big, too much going on. The world building becomes massive. Yeah, I think overall for me it was an experience that I enjoyed, and also just the voiceover performance by Steven Yeun, who's been excellent as this character. He's just got the perfect, young adult, teenage, going into your young 20s voice to play a character like Mark Grayson. But then we saw the range of him as a voiceover artist, where he can really embody these other iterations of Invincible, these alternate reality Invincibles, and make them feel like totally different characters by adjusting his pitch and his tone, his delivery. And it's funny because he was co-starring in Mickey 17 over the weekend, in which Robert Pattinson is kind of doing the same thing. So it was a double dosage of Steven Yeun and then double dosage of one actor playing multiple characters. Yeah, I thought the standouts ended up being Steven Yeun and Sterling K. Brown. But interested to hear what you thought about the episode overall, Aaron.
Well, like you said, I'm not too familiar with the comic, and I did read something that it was only one issue, so people expecting like this long, drawn-out event, like that just wasn't going to happen. But I think you see it a couple times throughout this episode where they try to set something up, and then they'll cut, and whatever they set up already happened, like with Donald, when Cecil tells him to get out there, and then the next time we see him, he clearly already got into a fight and got his ass kicked. So it's like...
yeah.
There was some stuff that they cut, obviously, whether it's budgetary restraints or trying to keep it within the 50 minutes that they usually keep their episodes in. So in that regard, maybe they didn't fully adapt everything the way that it was written out on the pages. But overall, like you said, it is something where they teased it in a post-credit scene and then it happens, and now it's kind of just, it's over. It was fun, it was entertaining seeing all these different Invincibles, but I think that's something the show does often, where they kind of try to have like Adventure of the Week type, but also try to do this whole overarching story with the season as well. And I think sometimes that can get clunky because the rest of it seems like, I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but it makes it feel a little less significant. And I think that's happened multiple times throughout the season where you can point to different episodes and those storylines just kind of came and went. I mean, some of the things stay with these characters, especially when you look at Mark. If you want to point to the time travel episode when he goes into the future and sees what happened, that's more of Mark's development. But as the story as a whole, it kind of leaves it to be not underwhelming, but, just what's the next thing? And it seems like we're always moving towards what's next.
Yeah, no, I think that is a good point, because throughout the season they are teasing it with the cameras. He's being spied on. Is it Angstrom? Is it somebody else? I think most people guessed that it would be Angstrom. And then you have this big event, and by the end of the episode, it is over. And I think that the humor with the multiple Invincibles was funny, and there were a lot of questions going into the episode. How strong would they be? How would they manage having to fight off 18 Viltrumites, essentially? But then we learned that they're not as powerful, but still powerful enough to do a lot of damage, in which millions across the world have been killed, because they said hundreds of thousands confirmed, and they were expecting it to triple. So it's this huge, world-shattering event that is it's almost hard to stomach that this much devastation and destruction could be happening to this planet and not come down on the side of all superheroes need to be put in the gulag and shot into space, because it's just literally a one man's vendetta against Invincible. And I guess he pulls it off. That's fun, because you see it in superhero stories all the time. Like, we're going to destroy the world and we're going to destroy the reputation of this hero. And he actually did it. In a way that, like I said, it's almost hard to wrap your head around the massive scale of the destruction.
Well, I think another thing is, and I don't want to like always bring up the time in between seasons and, you know, how long we've had to wait for some of these things, but I do think that affects it somewhat because, you know, we've teased the multiverse and we've talked about what they do with villains where they just can never finish their story. It's just always, oh, remember me? Remember when this happened? And it kind of just feels like, yeah, we teased the multiverse, took a little bit away from it, sprinkle some of it here, and then it all just comes to this big event that kind of just, I don't want to say comes out of nowhere, but it's just something that it feels a little funky when you think about it in terms of the series as a whole, where I think the long breaks have effects on some of the pacing and some of these events don't really hit the way that they should. I feel like that's happened multiple times when you're like, oh, something happens. You're like, oh, remember this that happened 2 years ago? Probably not. And you're tying these loose ends from things that aren't as significant as the main story, mostly because we're focusing on other things also. And also it's just been so long since we kind of started this thread.
No, and I think that's going to be something that a lot of people will be haunted by. Not to be so dramatic, but that the show is going to be haunted by the gap. And it's not just season 1 to 2, but it was the gap that they took in the middle. And you can't just expect that your audience is going to go back and rewatch and remember everything that happened. You could be harder on the audience if it's a 1-year gap, like shows used to have. Shout out to The Bear. I'm still not going to remember, but I credit them for only making me wait 365 days, as it should be. I think when, you know, what they've done a lot this season is focusing on Mark and Eve. You know, I love that opening shot of them on the bed. And, you know, teenage love, where she's got her leg on him and they're just kind of cuddling, but both on their phones. So when they go for the 2-on-1, I forget which Invincibles. I think it's the Viltrumite Invincible. Or no, Omnimark and the Veal Invincible. That actually, in season 2, it was when Amber was threatened by the Viltrumite lady. That startled me because of when Eve got her leg snapped and just the pure fear in Stephen Yeun's delivery when he's begging her to flee, just leave, because I know what these guys can do, even though they're not as strong as me, but 2 against you, you're going to get yourself killed. So I was terrified in that moment, and just seeing the leg snap and then Mark not wanting to go back and fight. He wants to watch over Eve. As the episode went on, all of that stuff really started to overwhelm me, I think in a good way. Just the pure chaos and them not letting up. But by the end of it, you're like, okay, where do we go from here? And I guess it's that overarching Viltrumite war, because then one of the most anticipated characters in the show shows up, which I was not expecting whatsoever. Conquest, voiced by Jeffrey Dean Morgan. So a lot of people are having fun with the Walking Dead reunion. But that was just like, you didn't even give me a breather. And it's cool that they're going to fight and throw down, but it seems like, and I don't want to say it's too much after complaining about the last episode, but it does just, it feels like a bit much that we're going to get all this destruction, because you know Mark's going to get his fucking shit rocked against this guy. They're going to tease us where he throws a couple of good punches, he gets a couple of good hits, and then this guy's going to go fucking God mode. He's got the fucking Thanos gauntlet. I don't think he needs that, but he's got it. And you know he's going to kill Debbie.
That's another, like, they just can't kill anybody off. Even with Angstrom, I'm like, oh my God, like, we knew he was coming back, but just like at one point, it's like enough. How do these characters die? What could possibly kill them?
Bro, fucking Oliver was like Chris Tucker in Rush Hour 3. It's like, kill that motherfucker.
Ain't nobody up here but us, man. Go off on him, man. He trying to punk you. Shoot him! If you ain't gonna shoot him, come fool his ass or something.
Yeah, but that was the moment, I think. Yeah, we got it in season 2 with the Viltrumite fight, where Mark is able to hold his own. Does still have to get bailed out there. When Angstrom was overwhelming him with all those different devices, I was like, fuck, like this guy's going to get sent into this alternate universe and he's going to come back and the world's going to be gone. And they're going to do some multiverse shit where he goes to another universe that hasn't been destroyed. But no, he's able to punch his way into confronting Angstrom. But yeah, then he gets away and the technicians decide he's going to be their puppet. So yeah, I kind of like that. You know, the anime moment there of Mark being able to overcome, but then Angstrom gets away. So yeah, they do like to recycle. And I don't know. It's just, Angstrom's cool. I did feel bad for the other Invincibles because they're just kind of dead now.
Yeah, but they didn't seem like they were the nice ones.
What did you think about using, just Stephen Yeun's performance and all the different Invincibles, the humor, the destruction?
I thought it was cool to see all these different ones, but I wish they would have spent a little bit more time on each individual Invincible and kind of, I guess it's like a blanket for all the bad versions of Mark. Well, that's why I appreciated at the end, the one with the mask saying, like, he didn't seem like he was fully evil, but he just wanted his mom back. Maybe getting into some of the reasonings why a lot of these Invincibles went down the path of evil rather than how we see Mark. Obviously, if they're going to keep it within one episode, that's might not be the best use of time, but I think that would have helped benefit, especially just the character of Mark and seeing the ways in which these alternate versions of himself can be led down this path and join his dad, usurp his dad, follow the Viltrumite way, become this destruction agent of chaos. But it was cool to see. I was more interested in seeing like the subtitles pop up and like what they called themselves. That was fun. No Goggle Mark.
Hoodvincible.
My favorite was a Business Baby.
I didn't even catch that.
He got fucking squished.
Yeah, it did make me laugh because when he was talking about, oh, not all of us killed Mom, and then he goes, my plan is to kidnap her and take her to my universe. Like for the moment I felt bad for him, and then I'm like, oh, that's really fucked up and disturbing. And then when he asks, nobody here misses anybody?
I miss William.
Whatever.
That actually made me laugh and also feel bad for him.
Yeah, but like that was kind of just a throwaway, but like why, like what in the world could cause Mark to kill his mother? Especially the Mark we know. I feel like there's such a contrast from the character we've gotten. So I thought it would have been interesting to kind of delve a little bit into that and see where these other Invincibles came from and why they are the way they are.
Yeah, and I think that's something where you can kind of play with Infinity. Most of the time Mark's going to go bad, but sometimes he can be good. I would appreciate if they explored that as to why Mark doesn't team up with Omni-Man. And I guess that's the explanation as to why they're not as strong. That if you imagine at the end of season 1, Mark goes, okay, let's take over this planet. Then he's not working as hard from there on to become as strong as he has in our universe because they're able to subdue the planet within minutes. The Viltrum Empire comes and says, good job, you guys rule this planet now, we're going to be on our way. So all the other Marks kind of plateau a bit because they simply don't have anybody else to fight. But our Mark Grayson obviously wants to become as strong as his father so that he could take down the Viltrum Empire. That was a cool explanation as to why they weren't as strong, but still very terrifying. You see that even end of season 1, Invincible, nobody can do anything with him. He's just, when he wants to kill you, he's going to kill you. He's going to toy with you. He's going to treat you like food, like the one Invincible that Rex is able to kill, which I hope he's dead because that was an epic ending for that character. And we were a bit critical of the Rex and Ray relationship, but I think that, obviously there was an intention there to make you care about their future together and then rip it from you in a way that is devastating. But he gets his ultimate hero moment. He goes out as Rex Splode. Or Rex Sploded.
Well, it was even cool to see a character like Immortal, like even though these Marks are weaker, to have a hero moment and finally be able to defeat someone. Wait, no, never mind. He got his fucking head popped off for the millionth time. Useless.
He is just a sentient punching bag. He's just there to be beaten to a fucking pulp. And then he gets his happy ending.
He's like LeBron if he was just the worst player in the league for 20 years. Got like the longevity.
Karl Malone.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of counting stats.
Yeah.
And knowing how long he's been alive for, look at the age gap between him and Kate. That's very problematic.
He's probably getting washed in like the Roman Empire with like fucking swords and bow and arrows.
Yeah, no, he gets clapped. Eve's parents, God, just the worst fucking people. Even Eve's mom, when she's trying to be nice and she tells Mark that story about our little girl was out fighting and that basically saved her. This other person who didn't have powers that lived across the street, she got squished. How lucky are we, right?
Anyway, nice meeting you, Mark.
By the way, have you met my extremely grumpy and unpleasant husband? He's standing in the door staring at you. Yeah, I mean, with Mark and Eve, it's going to be interesting to see what happens when she wakes up. Well, it looks like Mark is going to be a little bit more distracted. But and you saw more of the budget in this episode because that's been a criticism across the board these first 3 seasons is where's the budget for some of these fights? And even though a lot of those, the intensity of the Mark Invincible fights really steps up, as you mentioned, you still get the moments where things happen, but we don't see them, like with Donald. I think just like 15 seconds of Donald doing something cool and then getting his shit rocked would have been enough.
They put all the money into hyper-realistic bone breaks.
No, they really did, because that bone break was brutal. I guess, with Amazon, they don't really have that much money, so you got to make it count. They wasted all their money on The Expanse season 4 and then nobody watched it.
Yeah, but you can't beat that same-day shipping.
You always go back to that. You're like, man, that shit... You really do fuck with that.
Yeah, if I had to pick, I was going to say fully animated Invincible episodes, or I have to wait an extra day for my package.
I can wait an extra day for the dude wipes. I don't love using paper, but I just need a bidet.
You ain't a real shitter then.
That's crazy, bro. You need that sandpaper ass. Nothing's easy in this life. All you one white fucking sissies. Shout out to Darkwing though. That's a horrifying way to die, where you take someone into the alternate dimension universe. I thought it would have been funny if they showed that, like the Invincible kills Darkwing. Like, what the fuck, man? I'm going to kill you. And then he realizes he's trapped there and it's just like, nah. That's the worst, dude. That's like one of my worst nightmares, is being trapped in an alternate dimension with no way back.
No, it could happen too. I've seen it.
No.
Well, I guess Cecil was right.
Oh, yeah. No, we knew that.
Rehabilitation. So good on Darkwing to kind of show that he's changed on the side of good. Saved the day. Well, saved, in the grand scheme of things, nobody saved anything. They took out every major city in the world, but you get the small victories when shit like that's happening.
Dude, once again, Cecil, when you asked if Cecil's ever had a happy day, he was so upbeat. Like, yeah, we're going to rebuild. This is awesome now. Mark's definitely going to work for us. Mark's like, yeah, I'm not going to work for you. But then they have that nice moment where Cecil's like, hey, if you need a shoulder to cry on. And Mark's like, thanks, but fuck you. So sometimes it takes just an international event of mass death and destruction to bring two friends back together. So one door closes, another one opens, as they like to say.
I was just waiting for Omni-Man to show up. I guess we're still...
me too.
Yeah. I guess we're still have to wait for that, but that's going to be such a great moment.
Well, I don't hate that, man. If it's Conquest just starts putting the work on this kid, and then Omni-Man has to come and Alan as well to do a little 3-on-1. Maybe Oliver gets involved too. That was also a little disappointing when Oliver was going up against the Invincible, and then we don't see how he defeats him. Or maybe we do. I don't really remember.
No, they did that a lot where they just cut to dead Invincibles.
Yeah, a lot of red shirts in this episode, a lot of cannon fodder. All these random heroes just, you're dead, you're dead, you're dead. But I think Rex is a character... you have to compliment what they've done from that character. I think since the beginning up until now, I always say season 1, I couldn't stand Rex, and it's not they didn't do it on a dime. They really did develop his character and make him more likable episode by episode, taking small steps to a point where he even admits that he's in the best place he's been in quite some time. So that was earned. And I think that the argument could be made that an episode this big and this epic with so many things happening wasn't necessarily earned by what we've seen so far in this season. And I think that sometimes the episode of the week versus what everything is leading to come into conflict with each other, where it just doesn't quite work as well as you would want it to. Season 1 was really a masterclass in taking that approach and executing it to perfection. And I think seasons 2 and 3 have struggled with that a bit.
Yeah, and I do think a big part of that is Omni-Man's absence. I mean, the show is called Invincible and the focus should be on Mark, but what he brought to the show was something you can't replicate. I've enjoyed a lot of the dynamic between Cecil and Mark, but even that doesn't hold the same weight as his relationship with his father. And that was always the most interesting aspect. Even before all the rest of the world knows who Omni-Man is, the audience knows about it right away, but that's what made it so compelling, because you can see him interact in a way where we know the secret, but the way he his acting to his family shows the contrary of who we know him to be. So that was always so interesting there in season 1. And obviously everything kind of went off the deep end quick. And that's why I think a lot of the people gravitated to the show and were anticipating a season 2 as much as we were. And it does seem like it's kind of lost a lot of that momentum. I still enjoy the show from week to week, and it's one of my favorite watches, but I think it was more contained in season 1, and sometimes that does benefit a story. I feel like we've branched out to so many different areas where it's hard to keep the same cohesiveness as it was early on in the show.
Yeah, totally. It's a show that would really, really, really benefit from having longer seasons. And I know that's tough to do because of the animation, and especially an episode like this where you're giving us 50 minutes of animation. It just doesn't happen. You know, it's usually miniseries. Like I remember Pluto on Netflix, each episode was about 50 minutes, but that was a one-off. 8 episodes feels more like a live action series. So if this was, you know, a 10, 12 episode season, I think that this could have been spread out over a few episodes. And like I said, it's difficult to do. That's the problems that you run into with these adaptations. But at the end of the day, we have to review it as we see it. Powerplex just having the time of his life, or I thought he was going to, and then we kind of barely see him throughout the episode. And then he gives another annoying speech there at the end. I wonder if society is going to turn on him, but I mean, I'd be like, yo, fuck this guy, man. Get this guy the fuck out of here.
So yeah, things were a lot cooler before you showed up.
Like, what did you do to your pops? Because he was fine until you started flying around. I'm kind of feeling like Powerplex. It's crazy. And shout out to Jason Mantzoukas voicing Rexplode over these 3 seasons. If this is the end for him, really good job. You know, he's a funny guy when you see him in different shows and movies, and perfect voice for this character. And we also got the Aaron Paul, Jonathan Banks reunion, because Jonathan Banks voicing Brit, so that was fun. A lot of celebrity cameos in this show. I wonder if maybe not cutting a check for like Kate Mara and Aaron Paul and this guy and that guy, Sterling K. Brown, some of that money could have went into the animation, and you could have hired some voice actors that have experience voice acting for less money. But who knows? I'm not a genius.
That's the thing with voice acting. It's like I've never like wanted to watch something because a famous person is voicing them. If they do a good job, then obviously you give them praise. And like obviously with J.K. Simmons, I don't know, it's not the same pull. I feel like, oh, Robert Pattinson starring in a new movie versus Robert Pattinson's voicing the Heron. You know, that's cool, and they did a good job. But I don't think it's not the same. Obviously, you're not probably paying the same amount, but it still costs a little extra to put their name to a project. So yeah, you wonder if that would be a better route to go, but it seems like they're going to continue to go to celebrity cameo route.
Kate Mara guest starring on Invincible episode 6. Oh my God, my mom all of a sudden wants to watch Invincible because she loves Kate Mara. No, she doesn't know what Invincible is or Kate Mara.
And you don't even know until you hit pause and then the cast shows up underneath.
That's exactly how I found out it was Kate Mara. I was like, I got to pause because this is definitely somebody famous that's taking away money from the animation budget.
Rooney, maybe.
Oh yeah, Rooney Mara would be a big draw because it's like, they got her out of the house? That's impressive. Yeah, no, unless it's like Daniel Day-Lewis, because it would just be like, what the fuck? Why is Daniel Day-Lewis guest starring in Invincible then? Or Tupac.
That would be kind of tough.
No, I think about George Lucas wanting Tupac for Mace Windu every day of my life. That was the good timeline. Then all of a sudden Palpatine doesn't have a daughter because Mace Windu fucked his bitch. Old motherfucker. Alright guys, that does it for this review of Invincible Season 3, Episode 7, What Have I Done? We will be back next week for Episode 8. I don't have it's titled, I Thought You'd Never Shut Up. So.
Rex is going to come back.
It's funny because I'm devastated by his death, but I don't want him to come back. Not just because it was a great death, but because he's annoying. It's like, oh, this fucking guy.
Oh, we're going to see him. Cecil's going to have him in some contraption that he just invented.
The Rexbot.
Yeah, Rexbot 8000. I'm kind of talking myself into it.
Yeah, he was going to say something like, they said there'd be sex bots, but it's just a Rexbot. Oh, boy.
That's good.